So I wanted to make a video on being self-reflexive. Being self-reflexive is this idea that we encounter a lot in social theory fields, i.e. women's studies, sociology, psychology even, where it's important to reflect on what you're thinking and why you're thinking it. Back in 2011, when I was taking feminist theory, there was a piece that I had to read by Judith Butler from Gender Trouble, and I reacted to it in a video, and I uploaded it to this channel, and it has received about 500 views. It's got a couple comments on it. So first up, the things that I actually still agree with. I do still question the usefulness of Judith Butler's piece. It's super academic, it's really hard to read, it's theory heavy, and honestly I still kind of think it's kind of bullshit, because anyone who's experiencing gender differently could tell you the same things and not have to load it down with a shit ton of theory. I still think that's a problem that we have a lot in women's studies, where we try to take really basic ideas and make them sound really complicated in an effort to sound quote-unquote academic. However, at one point in the video, I say gender doesn't have a huge bearing on my life, which is totally funny if you consider what immediately followed that video. When I first started college, I didn't really feel like my gender matched up very well with what I was, but I didn't really have a desire to physically change anything, so I just kind of assumed that that must make me cis. And then I came upon this idea of non-binary, and I started doing a lot of reading, and eventually, actually a couple weeks after that video, I ended up coming out to my friends as non-binary and requesting neutral pronouns. But regardless, the idea that gender didn't have a very big bearing on my life is totally wrong anyways. Obviously it does. That's women's studies in a nutshell, and I don't feel like making the video in which I talk about the way gender affects my life, because that's not the video I'm trying to make. I'm just telling you that what I said was totally wrong. In the video I talk about this idea that the way that women's studies quote-unquote builds itself makes it hard for men to get into the field. I don't really care anymore. I don't really care if you don't feel like you can adequately express your emotions when women and trans people are trying to find housing and avoid being murdered. No, I do think when we talk about the experience of masculinity, it is important to talk to people who are masculine identified. However, I do not think that the experience of masculinity should be given more weight or more attention or more time than the experience of feminine identified people and just generally non-masculine identified people. And I do think there are important voices missing from women's studies, but I don't think those are guys' voices. I really don't. What we are missing are people of color, trans people, meta people, queer people. Like, those are the voices that I think we're missing in women's studies. But I don't think it's men. And like, I understand where Past Me is coming from. Past Me really cares about this group of guys that I mentioned, and we're still pretty good friends to this day. And while I can care about that struggle on a personal level, and it has a sort of personal importance, I don't think that the struggle against toxic masculinity has any sort of hierarchical importance. I think what's far more important and what more time should be given to are the people who are actually oppressed. And I just really wanted to make a video because I keep seeing people comment on that old video and view that old video, and I just want to tear my hair out if I had any left, because I don't think that way anymore. I am going to try to make a video every weekday from now until when I get a new job, because I was recently fired. So if you have ideas of other things that I should talk about, put it in comments below, and I will see you on Monday probably.